Hello, welcome back to another episode of D54. I'm Amit, joined by Kathy to discuss the play.
Oh, yes. Let's talk about that. Lots to talk about
Yeah.
with that.
A little bit late on this one, but we had heard about this movie like doing the rounds.
Yeah.
So the movie is called Aattam, which translates to the play. Came out pretty recently. Now, I'm not sure. I don't know if it got lost in the whole theatrical run of movies because I didn't hear about this movie when it was playing in theater. I think I
Right.
heard more about it when it came out on OTT.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's just because there were so many other movies that just came out to cinema at that time and there's so much competition.
Could
This
be.
one just sort of fell to the side. But I would definitely say this is more of a critic's darling, if you want to call it like that.
Yeah.
It really appeals more to people that I think, cinephiles that want to sit there and just explore, conversations.
Exactly.
Which is a very different kind of filmmaking.
Yeah.
But I'll just start off with like just general thoughts. What did you sort of think about this movie? Did you like it? Not like it? What did you like? What didn't you like?
I really liked it because I try not to read too much about movies. I like to go in not really knowing a lot about them. So when it started, I thought it was going to just be basically kind of a light kind of comedy drama about a theater troupe. And I enjoyed that being in that unusual, scenario and environment, and just seeing actors, and they're putting on their play and they're so earnest and they're all very, very into it and very actorly, and so I liked that. I liked that because you don't see it that often. So I was like, that'll be kind of fun. So when it took the weird turn, which we'll talk about, it became almost like a procedural in a weird way. Like trying to figure out who committed this heinous act that we will talk about. Yep. So that's what was kind of interesting, that we would have that scenario inside a theater troupe. So it's all very fresh feeling when I was watching it. Thought that was very cool.
Yeah, no. That was very cool. I did enjoy that. Like even the way it starts with the whole theater playing out and stuff like that. And actually it is I guess lost art, if you want to call it like that, or forgotten art. It's something that I think would definitely, that's like the origins of cinema is basically what they're doing. Before we recorded things, that's what they used to do back in the Roman and Greek empires. That's what they used to entertain themselves. They put on plays.
Yep. And they're still out there. Everybody should go out and see a play once in a while. They're still pretty cool. It's cool just to see it because it's so immediate. There's no they have to do it live. They're there. There are people on the stage. Like there's no editing and doing it in advance and cutting and putting together. Like that's what's kind of nice about seeing something like that. So I like that they were doing a play that's very artsy, like a very they had these big costumes and these kind of crazy. It looked very, very Baroque and weird. So that's what was kind of fun about it. But the entire cast is all men except for one woman.
Yep.
And can you imagine? How hard that would be? But everybody was very cool. Like it wasn't a hostile environment at all. And that was another thing that was kind of interesting about it. They were all really supportive. They were artists. You didn't get the feeling like she was being harassed or was any kind of weird patriarchy bullshit, and that was kind of nice too. Until
it catches you off guard, to be honest, because it sort of does seem like, as you said, there's nothing and I really appreciate that they didn't show it like the men are like really abusive or talking badly about her.
They seem like good guys.
They really respect her, and she's one of them. And even at the party when they're there, they're all sort of like, yes, she's like one of us. There's nothing,
very
and they're all sort of
protective.
You would think that they'd all stand up for her, but obviously something sort of changed along the ways.
They started to. Their heart was in the right
place. Yeah, definitely. And that's a really fascinating part. And like, so when we sort of mentioned, like, when you mentioned the part about the whole, plays are like raw, like unedited, pieces of footage. That's this, like, just from a cinematic point of view and the way they filmed this movie, it felt like it stayed true to that kind of nature as well, because there was not much editing. It was very small scale. It was just basically in a room, in a house. And then, every now and then they went out to go pick her up, but 99% of the movie. It was just within the compound that they were living in. And that's very similar to sort of what the play is like. It's just there.
It could easily be a play. They could adapt it to be a play and everybody be in the same room and they all be pontificating and they go in and out of doors here and there. But and I liked, like you're saying, I like that too, because it's about a play. It's staged like a play and it becomes a play again. So it was very, very cool.
Even the performances, so even the actors. Now, I don't know much about, actually, to be honest, many of the cast members. The only one I recognize is Vinay Forrt, who was in Truly. That's the only actor that I can see that I recognize. But even the rest, I don't even know if they've even had like movie credits, because just on the cast, I'm on the Google cast, the faces aren't even there. Like,
and so maybe they're all theater actors. Wouldn't that be funny?
I have a feeling. I have a feeling that they're mostly theater actors, and I know there's like a documentary.
That's a cool idea.
About them, which I'm keen to check out and see, what exactly their backgrounds are, because they were all fantastic. Like, I always feel like movies like this where it's so contained, and there's not much action, not much drama in your typical like a stereotypical way. You rely so much on dialogue, and just being able to pull that off so well. the I guess relationships they have with each other, the back and forth, like the delivery was all just spot on. So I can't flaw, like there's no flaws in the acting in this, which is really remarkable, because you have to be so precise in this kind of movie. If you have even one weak link there, you could have seen that and been like, this looks a little bit, off, because, it's a product of all of them, rather than, one individual star standing up, which is a testament to this movie. But what did you think about like the movie and sort of how it sort of was filmed and shot? Did you enjoy this kind of, it felt different, as you said, which I really appreciated too.
Yeah, it felt very, very theatrical, and like it wasn't about fancy cinematic tricks. It was about the performances and discussion. Like it's about writing, and so it was very much about the wordplay and how people treat each other. This wasn't about like tricky camera following the guy through a room or something. So I mean, dramatic. And they kept it pretty close to the vest. Like we weren't really sure how to feel about it. We felt as conflicted. I guess we can start talking about what it's about. But,
yeah, definitely.
So basically, they have a party after the successful, theater experience they put on the play, and it was staged kind of strange, because you heard weird noises as you were like from a distance, like if someone was hearing something. It sounded like a woman in distress, and then later you find out that somebody that night like sexually assaulted or tried to sexually assault the actress.
Yeah. Groped her or something happened.
They weren't clear.
They weren't really specific, but I think that's kind of the point of it. Like it's not meant to be like into the details, but something happened.
Yes. Something like somebody walked up and got a little too close to her and kind of made a move, and it was not appreciated. So that was a little creepy. And so it wasn't just like, oh, she brushed it off. Like she was very traumatized by it. So we don't see her for a lot of the movie after that. Like we basically cut to all the men gathering going, what are we going to do about this? Yeah. So I loved that idea. Like and it was cute too. Sorry, we have to protect her. We clearly, like she said, I think she told a confidant or told someone that it was this big actor they hired to be in the play.
Yes,
they hired this big actor. And they thought, and nobody liked him. Well, a few people had problems with him because he was stealing the thunder, and they thought he was only there temporarily and replacing them in the cast in one of the starring roles. And so there was some conflict there. So you almost were in the back of my mind, and I bet, and they kind of addressed this. You were a little suspicious that this wasn't getting trumped up to get him kicked out, because the other guy was not. Yeah. He was not being cool about it. So when he's sitting there going, we have to kick him out, like he's being a little too adamant about kicking the guy out. You're like, did you make what is going on? So I like that you weren't sure. So you're moving along with the group, trying to figure it out. So the whole thing is them sitting around a table, very much like 12 Angry Men. We talked about this earlier. We were inside a room and they're all trying to discuss this crime and how people feel. Like some people are like, oh, it'll be fine. It's no big deal. Like, let's just let it play out. Oh no, we got to get rid of him right away. We got to show that we're strong. And they're like, yeah, but if we kick him out, then we won't get all, because they get all this recognition. And then the little twist is he comes back and says, hey, it got so well received. We're all going to go on a tour in Europe. And it was that. So now they have something at stake. And so it's funny to see everyone, we got to kick him out. We got to protect her. They're like, well, maybe we don't have to kick him out. Maybe. Like so you're kind of turning with them going, how bad was it? Like, was it that bad? Like, I hated feeling it even myself watching it.
I know.
It's so funny.
It was so clever. It was so clever because they play with us both. Like the point you talk about, they play with us both from a narrative point of view, so we don't know who to trust and you know, what actually happened, because we've not seen anything, so we're just relying on the characters and what stories they're telling us. And the whole thing about this whole movie is like it's like a web of lies. It feels like, because they start off with a lie with I guess Vinay Fortt's character telling Nandan, like the main guy, that something happened, and you're starting off in the wrong foot there. Yeah. But then we already know that she didn't actually see anybody in the end, so they have to try and lie to get, I guess, to tell them. But I mean, the other thing that they also do is also play with you, like morally.
Yes.
Because your morals are all over the place. You're kind of thinking like, well, okay, well, does she have any proof actually? And wait, this guy's offering the money that's like, going to be life changing for them. Especially, I sort of sympathize for the old man, especially when he goes to the doctor's office and then he tells him, look, you have something happen in your brain or something like that, and you're going to die pretty soon. Like, there's nothing you can do. You have to do the surgery. He's like, I can't afford the surgery. I'm just going to live out my life and die when I have to die.
Yeah.
And then he didn't care about it until all of a sudden he heard this and he's like, well, I'd love to see the end of my days do something that I never thought would be even imaginable.
Yeah.
So you're like, oh my God, these people kind of change in their life, So you're like, okay, where do I go with this? Like, what actually happened? And you have all these other like sub stories happening as well. Cause you have like, I really, the name is so clever in this to play. Cause when I just sort of mentioned, it's not just the stuff we mentioned earlier about it being theatrical and it being like a play, but it also literally plays with you. Like you feel like you're being played.
Totally new.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. But the whole moral conflict you're having, like what actually happened here, who is doing this, and then they have some like other characters as well who have like other like stakes at hand. There's one character who pays like Hurry. No, he gets money from Hurry, so he takes a loan from him.
Yes.
So he's like, oh, am I in debt to this guy now? Should I be supporting him for this?
Yeah.
You have one guy that has like a fight with him. You have one guy who's having an affair with another guy's woman or something like that. So there's so many sub stories that leaked in there, and this is a very short movie. It's so tight and so well done. It's like, oh my God, it's fantastic.
And I like too that your impressions of people as you're getting to know them, they keep changing. Like you think, well, this guy is being really clear cut and he's very on top of it, and then they'll say something that either betrays their prejudice or their motives, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wait, and then you feel like you can't trust that guy anymore. So then you're like, who else can I trust in this scenario? And then to top it off, no one is talking to the woman about it. They're just deciding. They're just like, this is what we got to do. We got to do. So when she finally comes on the scene, and this is where you get the whole patriarchal, and it's not preachy. It's not preachy, but at the same time, you get how women are treated versus men. Like the men got to have all their opinions and they got to spout off and they got to say what they thought happened. And they're like, did you even ask? And they're like, oh, did you even ask what happened? No, no. And so when she's saying it, they keep doubting her story. It's like, it happened to her. And she's all like frazzled. Like she looks really stressed and her hair, she looks like it's really affected her. Like she has been traumatized by whatever it was. Yeah. And so she's like, do you really think I'm faking this? Do you think it was just nothing? Look at me. Like, look at me. And they're like, yeah, but, and so you felt like that pushback against the woman for even saying anything. Like, look what you're doing to our lives right now. You have messed it all up. And she's all like, ugh. And that's what I like too, is that they decide to proceed without even getting her input. And so that was great at the end where she kind of comes in and she starts taking charge of the room. And she starts kind of pulling them all out of their, stories and their motives and their little secret, ego things and everything else. And then having to expose lies people have been saying forever. Like she's just saying, all right, fine. You know what? We're going to come clean here. She talks about having the affair. And I just thought that was fantastic. And I thought it was great how they did kind of hold her off to the side till the end.
I love that.
Because you got that, oh my God, they just blocked her out. Even though they seemed that they wanted to help her. They kind of at the same time were still dismissing her at the same time.
Yeah, it's a strange approach. I don't know. Like if it was, I don't really know how to sort of take that, because was it like, were they trying to be respectful to her and be like, look, she's been traumatized and we're just going to take the stance as a team and kick him out at the start? That was sort of one view to look at it. Then I did really like how they sort of held her away, because she was the only one I feel that was like close to the truth and the pure truth. And the other ones were sort of, it happened to her and she was affected by it. And the other people were, affected by either different scenarios, whether it's to do with the opportunities and money, or it's to do with the web of lies that they sort of created for themselves. Like the main character, Vinay, Fort's character, his whole thing was like, well, I think he was the one that felt most affected because he was upstaged by Hurry, the actor, because he's like, I was the lead guy and you brought in this actor now, and now he's coming and taking over my spot, and now I want to get him out.
That's right.
So that's my own agenda. So everyone had their own agenda, but she just wanted sort of what was happened like to be true. But again, she was conflicted because the thing that she had was she was traumatized so much that she didn't even want it to be exposed. Like
it was shameful.
She was she was like, I don't want anyone to know about this. Like just, I don't want to be brought to the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I sort of like that, again, that dilemma that they're playing with everyone, even her, which was probably, something actually happened to her, but she's like do I share this or not? So what did you think about that side? Because I really wanted your opinion about how that treatment was. It was a strange situation to be in. Obviously, I can't really, sympathize for that kind of situation. But I mean, I can't see myself having that kind of situation. But as a woman, it's something that women go through. So it's something that's difficult.
I think part of it is because women don't want to say anything because they get shamed and called out. Men don't want to, a lot of times men don't want to believe that things are happening to women, or maybe it's not as bad. So I think women have to not only suffer whatever trauma they get from something like this, is that they then have to think about, if I tell these guys, they're going to think different about me. They're going to question me. They're going to grill me. They won't believe, they won't believe me, so you don't want to have to not only process this trauma, you don't want to have to go, I don't need you to distrust this experience I had. You need to take my word for it that this happened the way I say it happened, but women are not treated that way. So I think part of it was the fear of not being believed and being, held accountable or something, Did a kitty come in the room?
I don't know. I just realized my charger's going to go off. So let me just quickly charge it now.
Oh, that's so funny. We can edit.
I thought it would last, but no.
Okay. But anyway, so I think that's a big part of it, is that women don't want to have to confront men with things like this because it's uncomfortable, it's embarrassing, it's shameful, it's traumatic. And then men they either overreact and I got to protect you. It's like, I don't need protecting. I just need to be told that you believe me, that kind of stuff. So a lot of it's like how men treat women who have had these experiences. It's either with mistrust or overbearing or control. And I think that was a big part of it. I shouldn't want to say anything.
And that's the real heart of it, because when they sort of created this web of lies, essentially, that made the situation so much worse. Because basically what happened is one major thing that happens, which is like basically destroys all credibility for her, which is like, I think it's something like, she says, she tells Vinay Fortt, the main actor, and then he tells Nandan that she was approached by somebody at like around 2:30 or something like that. And what happens is one of the guys has a photo of him sleeping in his room at like 2:12.
Yeah, so he's like,
be there. What do you want me to believe here? Like your facts don't add up here. Something's not making sense. So because of that lie that they started, it's completely destroyed your credibility. Where if you didn't do any of that lying to start with, but he has his own agenda to try and kick him out.
Exactly.
And the whole thing you're talking about, trust, I think that's basically broken from her perspective, because especially with Vinay Fortt's character, who definitely he doesn't want to admit to having a relationship or having an affair, and all that stuff. And when it comes to the surface, and he's like, no, what the baby girl, like the daughter, she didn't see anything because she saw them kiss, and then he's like dismissing it, and she's like, so she stands up and says, no, we're having a relationship, something's happening here. So then it becomes like, oh, so you two cooked this whole story up then.
Then it becomes, it became a whole other thing. And and what I like too is that when they bring up that they think it's this main actor, Hari, I think that was his name.
Yeah, Hari. Yeah.
So he was like the big star, whatever he was. So he comes in, we haven't seen him yet. So he comes in and he's like, hey, and he seemed really charming and fun. I'm looking at him going, God, I hate that he did that. Like, I'm not seeing it. Like, and I think that that's part of it too, is you don't want to believe he could do it.
Yes.
So you see it, and he just isn't acting like a guy who did something weird. He doesn't seem like a creepy guy. And then you find out later, maybe it wasn't him actually. Then you're like, oh, thank God. I was like kind of relieved. Like, well, because he's been kind of a cool guy, So it's like, but I like that you can't even trust your own, like, kind of what do you call when you make these snap judgments, like this sort of thin slicing. The instincts, and like when you're observing things and your brain's kind of processing very fast, they call it thin slicing, and that a lot of times is influenced by your own prejudice and racism and all that stuff. Yes. So when you see that, you're like, she said, I smelled his perfume. That's all I need to tell you, because he wears this really bad cologne, I guess. So at the same time, I think they were saying his assistant was in the room a lot, and he would get start smelling like the perfume. Like that also wasn't a reliable piece of evidence. Which I was like, oh my God, who did it? What is happening? It was just
definitely no. They really played with it all the way to the end, because in the end we don't even know who the culprit is. They don't give it. But
they leave it up to us. Like, who do you think? Did it? Do you know who did it? Do you think he did?
I don't think there's enough facts. I don't think there's enough facts to really get us to know who did it, because like there's a whole scene with one of the other guys who comes in, and he asked for a cigarette, but they didn't show him whether really get the keys.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if he went out and he was hiding his own story or not, or whether it was Hari and he went out himself and did it.
Yeah.
Or there was also they played with I don't think it was this guy, but there was a guy who was actually in love with her.
Yes.
And did he, and then she told him that, I've never seen you more than a friend. Did he act out? Like, that's also a possibility that we didn't explore either. So it's like, there's so many things that can be told. But I guess the whole point is, and the one really heartbreaking scene, I think, was at the end when she is talking to Vinay Fortt and she's like telling him, like, when he tells her finally, this all happened, and it's like, this is the person that you're meant to trust, and she tells him like, what does a chef think, because his part-time job was a chef. And then he said something along the lines of I know no matter what, we definitely wouldn't go on the play without you. And I thought that was so heartbreaking, because I'm like, oh my God, so you don't really care about her, like, she's gone through injustice, and this tells me that all you want to do is just get him out of the play.
They're all just thinking about the play the whole time, really, technically. How is this going to affect the play? What do we do? Do we kick the guy out of the play and keep her? Should we just kick her out and get someone new? They were actually like thinking of all these scenarios, so it was all more about the play. And that I thought was great too, because that's was the overarching. Oh God, it was just so.
Yeah, that's a part that really hurts. It's like, okay, she was a victim here, and then it got to a point where, yes, you started off maybe with the right intentions, but then that slowly over time just deteriorates, and we see what it comes to at the end. And I love it symbolically how they're just brawling at the end, that camera away, and they're just fighting, and I'm like, it's just destroyed like internally.
So good.
But that part, I mean, I did have it. This movie wasn't a funny movie, but I gotta say, when they sort of revealed that twist, which I did not see coming at all, about the whole thing about he's getting him back, I love that.
That was really good.
Oh wow, this is just it's like the perfect kind of climax, because it's like, wow, he, like, Hari did not intend for everybody to know this. His intention was just to get back at the one guy, and he told them specifically, like, don't tell anybody until later. But he told everybody because he was in the middle of this, then all of a sudden it blows up into this big thing, and then he's like, yeah, I'm just getting you back for what you did to me. This is it's not unfair at all. So he's not a bad guy in that either, because he's like, you screwed me over and made me do something which I didn't want to do. I'm getting you back for that. That's all. Whatever other implications are there, that's for you to deal with. And I just thought it was such a good ending. I was like,
I know.
Wow.
And then he ran his mouth, so everybody's getting all greedy now. Like, oh, we have to do our tour. We're going to go on tour. And so everything they did, were like, how's this going to affect the tour? What are we going to do about the tour? Like, I love that. So no, even though Hari didn't mean to have an impact like that, he impacted the entire, like, sort of argument, like, structure that everyone had about how to handle it. First, it would be like, fire him. He's done. But now it's like, but if he's out, we don't get our tour, and we don't get as much. So I love that kind of came into it, even though people were trying to pretend like it wasn't part of it. It definitely was.
Yeah, definitely. I guess the icing on the cake was just the final. I guess the end.
Oh, I love the ending so much. Oh my God, the ending was so
like one of those. It's like one of those scenes that might have come up in like a post-credit scene or something like that. I'm not sure what they call that. It feels like the movie ends, but it's still going on, and they show like like it's like in a book when you have like that after bit, like the
little,
I guess,
like epilogue or
afterward. Yeah. Something like that, when they have that little scene at the end, because they show, what actually turned into it. And that's one positive sign. She actually, from that whole trauma, created something pretty beautiful and into that new play of her own. And she became the star of the show.
Yes, that was so good.
Where she wasn't before. Like, it was like, they kept hinting at the fact that she's the star, like she's the one that carries this one with the other people that got her until she's the real star of the show. And even, I think people in the play even acknowledged that to an extent, because they did value her. Like, she was like, she's definitely appreciated. But she didn't get the shine she deserved. So she turned this entire situation into its own play, which is just so great, I think. It's just like,
so good.
What a great way to end the movie. And I was like, they're all sitting there in the audience, and they're all just like, they're basically feeling guilty for what we've done. Like, damn.
It was powerful. And I like the staging. Like, they all had these masks on. It was very, like, very art, very, very strange and artsy. And they're all these, she's like sitting in the middle of this chair, and there's all these men surrounding her in masks saying this and that. And there was all the stuff from the things they were saying about her, whether to believe her or not. Oh my God, it was so great. The ending really made it. It got very meta and weird.
It did. The ending, I think, was great, because it just basically it kind of drilled it home, I feel, because sometimes you do want to treat your audience with a bit of respect and be like, okay, we expect you guys to understand this. But I think just having that visual impact of him in the mask and her, I think she's putting up like some clothes, and she's hearing somebody, but she's not looking at him, and he's wearing a mask. And then so the whole point is that I don't care, who you are. To me, you're all the same. Yeah, it could have been any one of you, but you all acted the same. Like, something happened and you didn't stand up for me, and created a whole mess of this whole situation.
That's right.
So that's perfect ending, and it just ends like that.
Because she's like, I'm all women, you are all men. We have a problem. Like, there's a problem with the way men treat women. They first of all assaulted her. Secondly, treated her badly, talked about her like an object, tried to protect her like they were somehow, her parents or something. Like they didn't treat her like a whole person. They treated her like a damsel in distress, which she was not, clearly.
Yes.
So I love that they did that. So it was all about like, believe the woman, let her decide what to do, and just believe. It's like, and I love that she was like, here's my play about it now. I like how they were all kind of, some were getting up and leaving, like, oh yeah, can't handle this. It was so good. It was really good. I thought it was a very, very strong and emotional movie. Very, very cool.
Definitely. No, I absolutely loved it. I would definitely recommend it to anybody that's looking for something that's a little offbeat, because I think Malayalam cinema is just having like an incredible year. It seems like it's just having so many movies, and this one is just sort of something that's so different. Like it's just so different, and it feels it's something remarkable. Now I will sort of mention a few people, especially the director, which I've never. This guy's not done anything. This is his first full feature movie, which is incredible. Like your first full feature movie, and you can differentiate yourself with that. That's crazy, because you think you'd do something safe and something that's more relatable, something that might be more I guess formulaic even, or predictable. But he's like, no, let me do something outside the box completely.
That's right.
And get a whole bunch of actors who, no big names in here. There's nothing really huge. The biggest name is Vinay Forrt, who at least that's the biggest name I know, and he's not a mainstream actor, I would say. Like he's definitely playing smaller roles. And then a whole bunch of basically theater actors, it seems like. But he pulled it off so well. So credit to him. He's got a great eye, and I'd love to see what he does next. Like I hope he sticks with this style of filmmaking, because it just gives so much variety to the industry. This vast and diverse industry just gives it even more depth, I feel like, when you have someone like this.
It does. I wonder if he has a theater background, because it really felt very authentic, and the way it was staged, the way it felt, and how theater, how actors are behind the stage and are all rehearsing, and I wonder, it just felt very inside, like he had inside knowledge of it, and so then he was able to do that kind of presentation that felt theatrical. And again, we're saying this is a very accessible movie, very entertaining to watch. Like this was not like a slog at all. Like it was very entertaining, very, very complicated and cool. So it's a fun movie to watch. It sounds like it wouldn't be. It was actually really fun just to see the way these people were talking, and all the twists and turns in their arguments and how it worked. It was really, really good.
It's a real delight. So I'm really looking forward to see, what they sort of do next.
Yeah.
Especially, the director here. Now he has done a short film, and I think we've been talking about this a little bit off, off camera, basically looking at some sort of short films. So if you have listened to this review so far, thank you so much. Really appreciate you. But let us know what you think about us covering some other sort of movies from, I guess, first time directors that haven't had their big break yet. Really fun to do.
I think it'd be fun to see even any filmmaker, even ones kind of made a few now that they've started like by doing short films. Like even Ari Aster, we wouldn't necessarily have to do this, but the guy who did Hereditary, he had a few short films first. It'd be fun just to take a look at those and talk about them. Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, very cool. So we'll probably follow this review up with something like that. And
that'd be fun.
Very fun to do. Yeah,
definitely.
Cool. This was a lot of fun, Kathy. I really appreciate it. I'm glad we got to cover this movie, this great movie.
That's great.
And make sure to go to Cinemundo, subscribe, like, follow, ring the bell icon, and do all those things that YouTube wants. Leave a comment. But until next time, we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.